Hello there, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of TA with MK. My name is MK, and in today's video, we're going to talk entirely about a crypto coin, a gaming coin specifically, as it falls into the number 3 out of my top 10 coins, a series that I started recently, more or less just my top 10 coins that I plan to accumulate during the latter part of this bear market. I will leave links in the description to the first 2 coins that I made videos about. The first one was Veracity, or VRA, and the second one was the Oasis Network, or for short, ROSE. Today's coin, which is number 3 out of 10, is actually the crypto gaming coin called UFO Gaming. I mentioned it in my last video that I made, or at least 2 videos ago, that this was going to be the coin that I would be covering. So here we are today, getting ready to cover this coin. Now we're going to talk a little bit about what UFO Gaming is, some of the developments they have on the horizon. Of course, we'll talk a little bit about the charts, areas of interest for me as far as accumulating for the long term, and then we'll finish the video off just with some of my final thoughts on the project itself, and just some reasons why I'm bullish on it mid and long term. Now, if all of that does sound interesting to you, obviously stick around and watch the video, and if you wouldn't mind doing me a huge favor, please remember to like and subscribe, and let's go. It's TA with MK. It's TA with MK. So to start off, the first question that we would obviously want to answer for you, or the most obvious question would be, if you're brand new or hearing about this coin for the first time, is what is UFO Gaming? Well, to show you, or to kind of quickly dive into what it is, we're actually just going to go straight to their website, which is ufogaming.io. I'll leave the link in the description. When you load up the site, it has this cool little thing that pops up that says preparing for journey with a little spaceship. And then, of course, the site loads up. One of the first things you can do is you can click up here on the top where it says About. It will load up another page, and I'm just going to briefly kind of read a couple sentences from this so I can show you, or tell you at least, what UFO Gaming is. So it says, UFO Gaming is a pioneering gaming company founded by a team of gaming and crypto enthusiasts with years of experience. We're going to skip forward a little bit. It says, what sets UFO Gaming apart? Our richly designed games are set in galaxies and dimensions far from our own, with unique in-game assets players can actually own. The decentralized dark metaverse empowers players and entitles them to in-game revenue. So a play-to-earn type of game. Alongside our talented team of in-house designers, developers, and specialists, UFO Gaming is partnering with some of the world's best gaming studios to execute a truly state-of-the-art, yet accessible experience for gamers around the world. If we scroll down a little further on the page, we can see some of their partners. It says here that KuCoin's one of their partners, Merit Circle, Chainlink, CADX, Gate.io, Kadena, which is KDA, another coin that I'm actually a fan of, CitizenX, Shiba Swap, and Polygon, which is Matic. Next up, I want to show you something that I find to be pretty cool about UFO Gaming. Up here on the top right where it says esports, if you click here, it actually takes you to a page where it says that in addition to developing its own ecosystem, UFO Gaming also has its eyes, or its sights, set on the esports industry, which is naturally makes sense, obviously, from a gaming standpoint, which is what UFO Gaming is all about, and sees the value in having a robust esports presence through sponsorships, streams, and tournaments. It says right down here that UFO Gaming tournaments, they actually had a tournament recently. It says a successful UFO Gaming 10K Cup is what they called it. Put programmers, streamers, and the general gaming public against one another. They used the game Apex Legends. And also, if you scroll down just a bit further, it actually says down here that they acquired, it says acquisition of an esports team. It says UFO Gaming has acquired an Apex Legends esports team in partnership with Horizon, creating the UFO-Horizon team. After our acquisition and support, UFO Horizon has become the 8th Apex Legends team in Europe. We can also hop over to another site, which I'll leave a link in the description for. It's medium.com. And I just like how this site explains what UFO Gaming is in a little more detail. It says here, UFO Gaming is a decentralized gaming platform that bridges traditional games into the blockchain and gives players the ability to earn while playing. The UFO Gaming ecosystem, known as the Dark Metaverse, that sounds pretty cool, is an ever-expanding realm that consists of play-to-earn games, breedable in-game NFTs, that's another buzzword, of course, virtual land, and a metaverse launchpad. And then if you scroll down just a bit further, this is what I actually find to be really cool. It says the first planet in game that was being unveiled by the team is known as Super Galactic. Now, I do believe that this actually launched sometime last year, but it says Super Galactic, which is an RPG arcade game, and it just kind of explains how this play-to-earn game works. Like most of them, you have incentive to hold their token. In fact, the only way you can play the game is you need to hold their token. Kind of explains it down here, actually, but you need to stake or hold their token. At that point, you get what you can use to build these characters, which it requires what's called plasma points, which they give you by you holding onto their token. You use those points to mint these limited NFTs, do daily tasks to earn what's called UAP. UAP is just another form of kind of like currency within the game, and you sell that UAP in the open market or use it to breed additional NFTs. So of course, just like Axes, for those of you that maybe remember when that coin got really popular during the last bull run, AXS I believe was the ticker for it. But anyway, it was a game that got popular just at the right time, because just like all these play to earn games, you had to hold on to their native token, which was the AXS token, in order to essentially play their game. So naturally, as more users were playing the game and having to hold on to these coins, the price went up. And so the idea behind a coin like this that I'm bullish on is the idea that I believe it's going to be popular, going into this next bull run and maybe even, the foreseeable future in the gaming space, the crypto gaming space. And naturally, as they release more games and, incentivize people to hold on to their tokens that play the games, the price is just naturally going to go up and, maybe do something similar to what Axes did during the last bull run. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and roll a quick clip of the game before we continue. Now, one of the first questions you should ask yourself if you're investing in a coin long term is, does this coin have, bullish news upcoming, or does it have a roadmap with developments? Are they actively working on their token, so to speak? Or in this case, since it's a gaming coin, are they working on any new games or any new developments for their current games? And so I'm back here on the About page, and if we scroll down, there's actually a spot here that says UFO Gaming News, and below that, it actually mentions an update to their roadmap. So we're going to go ahead and click on that, and from there, if we scroll down, it actually has a spot here that mentions their roadmap. It has the phase 1, which was growth. They checked all those boxes. Phase 2, which is the black hole, and then phase 3, which is where we're at now, they've dubbed the intergalactic phase. And as you can see, there's a lot of upcoming plans for UFO to, I guess, better their product. And it even mentions down here a ways they're coming out with a dark metaverse version 2, and it also says they'll at some point be having a next game unveiling. And if you scroll down just a bit further, they actually have a breakdown of the roadmap. I'm not going to go over that, and of course in today's video I'll leave the link in the description for this page, but it just gives an overview of kind of the phases that they've already completed, and of course the more important one, what is upcoming, which of course is this intergalactic phase. And as I have done in the previous videos, I always mention it's a good idea to go to the project's Twitter page just to see if they're active on there, posting updates, things of that nature, or news. So here we are on twitter.com / the UFO token. We can see down here that on July 29th, 2022, that's their last pinned tweet. That was when their staking DApp went live. Scroll down a bit further, it does look like 15 hours ago, they added some, I guess, dash attack thing to their game, to Super Galactic. Scroll down a bit further, you can kind of see, it looks like basically they've just been very active on updating or adding more features to their game, which makes sense. It's the only game they have out right now, so until they unveil the new game, it looks like they're just putting a lot of focus into, making this game, I guess, better. And finally, to finish today's video out, we are on the actual chart for UFO, and I just want to cover a few things. I'm not going to really dive deep into the actual chart. I just want to point out a few things that make me bullish, more or less on this coin, coming into this next bull run, and why, I believe we're at levels that are worth accumulating at. The first thing I want to point out is just how far down this coin currently is, just like obviously many of the coins during the bear market, especially small cap coins. But if we go over here to where its all-time high was, at least as far as KuCoin is concerned, this was back in December of 2021, and we drag down to where current price is. You can zoom over here and see that it sits currently, as of making this video anyway, a little over 95% down from its all-time high. Now, I feel it's important to mention that just because maybe I believe these coins have the potential or the ability to go back to their all-time highs, and in many cases exceed them over the course of this next bull run, maybe the next 2 to 3 years, it doesn't mean they all will, or that any of them will for that matter. So as is the case with any investment, it's important to do your own research, but I do want to point out what kind of potential gains there could or would be should the price of UFO reach its previous all-time high, and then talk a little bit more about some more realistic targets that I have, maybe for the next few months, maybe the end of 2023, maybe even just the next year or so, should, UFO go on some sort of a run, but, not a run where it goes all the way back to its all-time high. So if we grab this tool that we were using to determine how far down it was, we can now drag it the opposite way from where price is now up to, blue, where I've put this blue horizontal line representing its previous all-time high. And you can see that that is just over 2,300%, which would be like a 23x, meaning if you invested $100 today, and in 2 years this goes up to its previous all-time high, your $100 would essentially be $2,300. Now, is that realistic? Well, even though maybe I think so, just because this is a coin that I believe in, I am ultimately a trader or more of a short to mid-term investor at heart. So I would be looking more for areas of interest, you know, in the more immediate term. When I say immediate, I mean next few months to maybe year and a half. You know, most likely if UFO is to reach this price that I believe it can reach, it's probably not going to happen in the next, 12 months. Let's just say that. So if we zoom in a little bit further, you can see here on the chart that I've kind of broken this down into some areas of interest based on kind of a zone low or a range low, range high. Down here you can see we accumulated a bit here before we had a huge rally. Now this rally actually happened in the summer of last year, and that rally alone actually saw price go up right around 450%. So that's like a 4.5x, gains, which is pretty crazy. Definitely more than you'd get out of something like, say, Bitcoin, which is why we all love to trade altcoins, of course. But I mean, that's a pretty recent rally that it did that. You can see that it kind of found resistance here on the 200 simple moving average. Again, later here on the daily, it poked its head above it, but ultimately couldn't hold the 200. Here, most recently, it was rejected. So you can see the 200 moving average has kind of been more or less its resistance. The one time it peaked its head above it, lo and behold, the 200 EMA is where it found resistance. And at this point, which is natural during a bear market, as it gets rejected, price action is just getting more and more compressed by the 200. And ultimately, at some point, you would expect it to grind sideways, allowing this to come down even further, pop its head above it, and then normally that's when it begins kind of its upward trajectory, right? Now, if we zoom in, we can get a better idea of kind of where the price levels are to pay attention to, the range low, mid-range, so to speak, and the range high. Now, this coin doesn't have a super defined mid-range, but if we look at kind of what was the previous, floor, where price action was bouncing off of in early 2022, January through like February and March, clearly after we lost that area, we had a giant recovery during the summer, the summer rally of last year when altcoins went on a rally. And lo and behold, the previous, floor, we'll call it, became, the ceiling. Fast forward a bit from there, and we can see that price action came back down and more or less bounced, or at least consolidated, at the same level of support. And if we were to scroll out to something like the weekly, you can see that it's putting in more or less a consolidation pattern, something that has many different names depending on who you're talking to or what traders' videos you're watching. But the one that I would say this looks the most like, or at least would it potentially wind up looking like should it continue to develop, would be what's called an Adam and an Eve. The left side of an Adam and an Eve more or less is what's called a V-shaped recovery, big plunge to the downside, a big plunge to the upside. And then the second time it comes down and revisits that same support, which you could also call a big double bottom. That's another term used a lot in my videos as well as other traders. But more or less, the Eve side of the Adam and Eve is an accumulation side where it takes a little bit longer before eventually flipping, previous areas of resistance into support and kind of grinding its way back up to ultimately what's considered to be the neckline of this pattern. And if we scroll back into the daily, we can come up with some targets based on the oldest and easiest, trading technique in the book, which is just overhead horizontal resistance levels, areas that previously were, obviously either support at some point or resistance, and price actions below them. So naturally, if it's going to go up, these are going to be areas that people are going to be looking to, potentially take profits at. And the one right overhead is an area back here that I marked in orange where it was support on several occasions back in here, support. Then it got flipped and was resistance for a while. And that area would be basically 5 zeros and right around 1850. And from where price action is right now, that target would be about 25 to 27%. Your next target above that would be this other area that has been resistance on many occasions back in here, kind of like a mid-range. So right now, just within this blue line and this blue line, here you kind of have what we'd call the range low. This orange line would be the mid-range, right? And then you have the range high. This is more short term. When I say short term, next month, 2 months, 6 months, something like that. I'm not talking long-term targets, but you have that 27% target. You have that next one up, which would be right around 5 zeros and 24. Good chance that it finds resistance actually wherever this 200 EMA is at the time, but let's just make the assumption that it would be able to grind past that and ultimately find resistance at that horizontal line. That's sitting at about 62% from where price action is currently. Now, if that were to break, we would likely be off to the races. Now, there is one other area above that I'll mark as a target where price action has seen some reaction. This area up here, we'll just call it between 30 and 32, kind of a little zone. In fact, I'll go ahead and just mark it kind of that way on the chart. Just a little zone here. And it's an area that was resistance a few times in here, resistance a few times here, so not as major as these lower levels, but clearly an area of interest. And that target from where we're at now would be up here at about just over 100%. But you can see that if we were to break that, if and when we were to break that, that this big area in here, price action hasn't spent much time. Price action plunged through here, so there really wasn't enough time to build any sort of support. And again, when it broke back through this area here, going this direction, it again didn't spend much time. So you kind of have to make the assumption that this big zone in here is not, there really isn't going to be much overhead resistance. There's not many people that bought the token in this area that are looking to take profits there. So at that point, your next major target naturally would be this blue line up here at about 5 zeros, and let's call it 65. And ultimately that would kind of be my first major target where I would be taking a lot of the profits at, and then leaving a moon bag, so to speak, after that. So where does that come from a game perspective? Just under 350%. And more or less, I would just look at all of these targets as kind of the trading of the coin. Like, to me, naturally, if you're going to invest in this long term, you really don't need to be focused so much on all these levels. We're at clearly an area that I believe is a good value for this particular token. Should it be able to, meet the expectations that I have for it and that others have for it. But, if you wanted to kind of trade this coin, look to make some profits in this, mid-term, essentially like I plan to do before, holding on to a moon bag, you could do all of your trading kind of just within all of this area that I've marked out between where price action is now and kind of that upper blue zone. And then if you scroll back out, if and when, at some point this token were to break above this level that we talked about before that was previously support, there's a good chance it's going to go much higher at that point. But it would be nice to already have, 75-80% of your profits locked in here, and then just see what the moon bag does, because you never know. When a bull run comes, some coins will peter out pretty quick, and then some will get some crazy momentum. News comes out right at the right time, something like what happened with Axis again, like I referenced earlier. And you could see this coin easily reach its all-time high again, like we talked about, which I believe was like a 23x, and maybe even break that and do something astronomically higher than that. Of course, I'm not going to try to make up targets in this video, so I just wanted to give you kind of a breakdown of the realistic, I guess, mid-term targets for it, going into the, this next altcoin season, and you can kind of take it from there. And just a couple thoughts, or final thoughts, so to speak, as we wrap up today's video, is I think we all know gaming has never been bigger than it is now. It's not going anywhere. So anytime I see a token that I feel good about or I'm bullish on that's in that space, it kind of just gives me a little bit more confidence that it has the ability to perform. And I think going into this next bull run, any gaming token essentially that's relevant at the time, has news, will probably do well. This is just a smaller cap coin, so I think it has the potential for bigger gains if it can gain some steam. And I think it's in the right space, and it seems to have a very knowledgeable team that's motivated to help this coin continue to grow. And there's also been a few bigger YouTubers, not that there's any bigger than me. I'm obviously the biggest YouTuber. No, just kidding. But there's YouTubers that are far bigger than me that have mentioned, being bullish on this coin. YouTubers that I actually feel like have some credibility of being able to pick out decent projects and coins. One guy that I follow that I do believe has over 1 million subscribers, his name's Alex Becker. I've noticed in the past, I don't know if those of you that follow him, he does kind of have a knack for choosing some of these projects that wind up doing really well. And I don't know if he has, does the research himself, or if he has a team that does the research. He never really specifies too much in his videos, but he specifically, just if I want to point out one guy, there's been several others that I've heard over time, he's bullish on this coin. I've heard him mention it in a few different videos, and that means that into the next bull run, if this coin's doing well, there's a good chance someone like him and a few of these other larger YouTubers are going to mention this coin, and it's just going to make it that much easier for it to gain hype, get some momentum, and potentially see bigger gains than even I might expect or have mentioned in this video. So there you have it. Pause what you're doing and go buy some UFO tokens. Just kidding, not financial advice. Do your own research, but I hope today's video was informative. I hope everyone's having a beautiful week. I appreciate you sticking around and watching the full video. And as always, if you haven't done already on your way out, please remember to like and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next one. It's TIMECODES.